Okay, all right. And yeah, I'm just going to share off, because what I did is I put it in through PowerPoint. So if you want to share application screen, or actually, you know what you can do is, I'm sorry, just click the present button.
I think because you're pointing at it, it's
sorry.
taking over.
Oh,
so go
yeah,
ahead and
right.
you can touch the screen.
Oh, there we go. Technology, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, well let's get started. It's 2:30. So welcome everyone. My name is Patrick Kane. This presentation covers specifically phishing. So I call it the field guide to spotting phishing emails. It's kind of a common theme of the presentation. However, we're going to go into a couple different areas as well. Just it's all kind of good information to have in your mental toolbox as you kind of peruse email, electronic communications, using computers in general. So I'll open up and so a little bit about me. My name is Patrick King. My primary job is during the day I work at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Chicago. I'll get into that. I've been there since 1999. Does anyone remember what happened in 1999? What everyone was getting ready for? The flood.
The big crash as soon as New Year's Eve was over, New Year's Day, everything was going to blow.
Y2K. So that's how I kind of became to be at my current job in 1999. I was hired on in April. Prior to that, I was an intern at Ameritech, if anyone remembers the phone company Ameritech, and I worked as an intern in their Small Business Solutions Center. And one of my job duties was I managed a voicemail system for, if anyone heard the radio commercials back in the 90s, Ameritech Small Business Solutions Center. We had two voicemail systems in the Fort Dearborn Central Office downtown at Dearborn and Grand Avenue, and I would help administer mailboxes. So, long story short, I found out that they were looking for a provisional employee to update their voicemail system. So I started there in 1999 and never left. I held many different roles. I was a systems administrator. I worked at their help desk. I worked as a network technician. Current job is I'm their infrastructure manager, so I manage our data center environment, our network environment, do a lot of managerial stuff like that. Been at Triton as an instructor since about 2015. As I kind of moved up in my company in IT, I kind of moved away from the technology, and I missed that. I was doing more budget forecasting and sitting in really long meetings, and it wasn't my thing. So I started teaching, but I was a student at Triton back in 1994. I got my Associates in Arts and Sciences, went on to DePaul University, which was paid for by my employer, thankfully. And I came back to Triton in 2012. A couple of my friends are instructors over there in the automotive department, and took some classes. I'm a shade tree mechanic, and they're like, you should try this teaching thing. You're good at explaining things to people. And I do training at my job, so the rest is history. Been here and loving out the whole time here. So my day job, we're the Water Reclamation District. We're the flush people. So if you live in Cook County and you use your toilet or use your sink, chances are it's going into a municipal sewer system. And part of what we do is we interconnect those municipal town sewer systems for the purpose of wastewater treatment. So we treat that water, which is wastewater and also storm water. So during heavy rain events, we have a series of tunnels, the largest being the deep tunnel, which is about 330 feet underground. It's 37 feet diameter, and it's about 109 miles long. And it can hold about 17.5 billion gallons. So that's the first phase of what we do. The second phase is called the reservoir plan. So it's called TARP. It's a tunnel and reservoir plan. So we tie the deep tunnel into a series of quarries. We have quarries far south as Thornton, just south of I-80 off 294. If you ever drive south on 294, it's called the Grand Canyon in the Midwest. It's on both sides of the road. It holds about 7.6 billion gallons of wastewater, or stormwater. We have a quarry in McCook. Phase 1 came online in 2017. Phase 2 is coming online in 2029. That combined will hold about 10 billion gallons of wastewater. And what it does is it's really retention. So what they do is they pump it to our treatment plants. This picture is our Stickney treatment plant, capable of processing about 1.4 billion gallons a day. So we'll treat that water, and then we release it back into the waterways after the rain event subsides. And the water is about 98% potable. It's not, I wouldn't drink it, but it's a lot better than the water that's in the, in the streams and waterways. So a little bit about that. So what are we going to talk about today? Enough about my job. So what is phishing? We're going to talk about some real-world examples. We're going to go into some protection mechanisms that are employed here at Triton College to protect you, to help identify these messages. And then we're going to do a little interactive practice. So throughout the event, we're going to do a couple exercises. I have a couple emails I'll show you, and just ask kind of a general audience question. What looks kind of strange here in this message? But we can take a look at it. So first and foremost, what is phishing? It's a fraudulent practice of sending emails purporting to be from reputable individuals or companies in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information. Long answer, they're just trying to trick you into clicking or visiting a site to get your credentials. Have attached your email inbox. That's about 98% of what you're going to see a phish as it originates as, and it's global. This is a global, worldwide problem. It's not specific to the United States. It's all over. Just some statistics, about 270 billion emails are sent each day. Okay, so in a day-to-day basis, 270 billion. They try to give you a sense of importance, excitement, urgency, or immediate attention of some sort. They try to lure you in with some sort of highlight, urgency. And they masquerade themselves as legitimate. So they try to use legitimate companies, they try to use legitimate people, which we'll see, to try to lure you in to giving up your credential, your information. Yes, question?
Is there one place in the world which more than another is the source of it?
So statistically, I couldn't really give you as far as like malicious messages. I'd have to pull reports, but a lot of them we see, it really varies on a day-to-day basis. And I got a couple statistics that'll go a little bit more into that, and I do describe that in the presentation. So just an example. So phishing, what it does is basically it's trying to get you to click on something to try to give up your credential information. And what the result is cyber criminals or threat actors will often get inside a network then and do malicious things. And one malicious activity they can do is called ransomware. And ransomware, what they'll do is they basically will go in, encrypt a portion of data that they compromised, and ask for money in return. And it's become so prevalent in the last 3 to 5 years that it's actually called like ransomware as a service. It's actually something that companies, the malicious companies, are kind of basing their whole infrastructure around. But just an example, back in 2018, there was a ransomware attack. The city of Atlanta had an automated control system that was compromised by what's called a SamSam ransomware. So once they were able to get in the network, they planted this ransomware that encrypted this data. Unfortunately, the data that was encrypted wasn't backed up. So the city of Atlanta had no other choice but to pay the ransom, which is $51,000, which they're asking for. But all in all, after that was paid, they had to upgrade their infrastructure, which cost them an additional $2.6 million. Okay, who do you think pays for that at the end of the day for a municipality? Taxpayers, right? So that's why this is an ongoing problem that is becoming more of a focal point of a lot of industry. A little more recent, Colonial Pipeline. This actually, I point this out. This compromise wasn't done in the form of a phishing attack, but the reason why I show Colonial Pipeline, they were able to obtain the bad guys, DarkSide. They're a Russian business network, threat network. They obtained one password. That, if everyone remembers what happened last May, they shut down the entire oil distribution pipeline on the eastern coast. One password, and they shut the entire network down. And it got to a point where people, if you remember, there was panic in the market. People were going to gas stations, they were filling plastic bags with fuel, thinking there wouldn't be any gas in a week or two. It would cause a panic. And what happened was Colonial paid $4.4 million in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, to the attackers. The group was DarkSide. Eventually, about $3 million was recovered by the FBI. They were able to trace to the crypto account where it was the Bitcoin was stored and recover it, but the damage had already been done, right? So, and it's still, there's no real estimate as to what the extent, financial extent of what Colonials had to pay to get their network more secure. And what they did was they came in through what's called a VPN, like a virtual private network. And this is basically remote administration. How a lot of people have been working from home lately, they remoted in to the company. That's how these criminals got in. So, and they encrypted, yeah, question?
So when you pay the ransom, how do you guarantee that they didn't keep something?
So that's kind of a, yeah, so what they do is they will send you portions of the data to verify that they have it and they can get it back for you. So it's essentially, you're in communication with the cyber criminals, and they'll say, okay, yeah, how can you get this back? Well, they'll show you segments of the data.
How are you not sure that they're still buried in there?
That's you need to establish that trust, and then at the same time you're working with the FBI, you're working with the NSA to try to track down who these people are. But again, you're losing millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars by not distributing while this is going on. So they know they have you. They know they have you in a very vicarious position. So that's, I just like to point out, one password caused their entire pipeline network to get shut down.
So we know this is going on, especially with the Russians, I guess, and maybe the Chinese. Are we doing anything?
So yeah, there are counters. So CISA, I have some. We have agencies that work as in cyber offensive instead of cyber defensive posture, and that's a different conversation I can get into in depth in a future presentation. But we are, proactively trying to do this. So there is a bigger conversation to be said there. So to defend, but also to let them know that you will be held responsible. Part of the issue is a lot of this is international, so a lot of those laws don't, comply. These people are not on soil, so we can't,
Why don't we just try to wreck them?
Say again?
Why don't we just try to wreck them?
So that's, again, there's examples of that I can go into. Yeah, it's, but going back to phishing, 96% of social engineering attacks are delivered by email. That's why it's so effective, about 96%. 3% via website, 1% via phone, phishing, or SMS, smishing. I have an example of that. 47% of phishing messages use LinkedIn as the impersonator. If anyone has gotten a LinkedIn friend or connection request, you may want to give it a second look. 34% involve collusion between employees and their threat actors. Sometimes cyber criminals will obtain personal information on an employee and blackmail them to give up information, or with the threat of that information going public about that employee. And a lot of times what the threat actor will do is offer compensation to that person. So really it's become, this is the world we're living in. And probably most disturbing, 667% increase between February and March of last year during the first round of go home through the pandemic. Cyber actors knew we were going to be working remotely. They knew we'd be on our electronic devices, the means to communicate with our work, with school, with our loved ones. They just upped the ante. And to your point, there is some evidence that state-funded countries are financing these operations. Yeah. So it really has become something we need to be more resilient and aware of. So what to look for? Email addresses. Here at Triton, if you get a Triton non-email address, or it looks like it came from a non-Triton domain, give it a second look. Triton kind of does this for you. It reminds you it's from the outside, but just give it another look. Take a look at it. To and CC fields. Was the email sent to a list of people that you may or may not know? Right? So sometimes you do get a list. So you may have attended a conference or attended an event. There's a lot of people on that list you're networking with there. You may not know them. But again, if it's a long, exhaustive list, you may want to give it another look. Generic greetings, dear user, account holder, value member, customer. Generic, we call it spam, right? So they don't know who you are. They're just trying to get you to possibly invoke some operation to perform a click or an authentication. Grammar and spelling mistakes. To your point, a lot of these people, English is not their first language. So when they craft these emails, they may not have a good grasp of good grammar or spelling, and there will be mistakes in the message. So hyperlinks, oh, go ahead.
For finding out the grammar mistake, you have to read it. So just by clicking on and opening an email is not, we are not divulging out any information to them.
No. So typically, opening the message by itself is benign. If there's a malicious link or an attachment in the message, and you were to take action on it, that may cause your system to be compromised, depending on if there wasn't other safeguards in place on your computer or your mail system, right? So simply opening a message.
Can you repeat that? Okay, just opening the message doesn't.
No, you actually, so in addition to opening the message, you need to actually click on a link inside the message. We're going to look at a bunch of examples. I'll show you exactly. So these are messages that are opened, right? So hyperlinks, asking you to verify. Attachments that are in the message, are you expecting an attachment? And this could be any file format. This could be Microsoft Word, this could be Adobe document, images, BMPs, bitmap images, GIF images, it could be any type of file. Immediate actions requiring you need to respond by the next 24 hours, your account will be suspended. You want to give you a sense of immediacy to do something quick. Send a request, your password or login credentials. They're asking for this information. That's usually a red flag. So on your table there, there's a little, there's a handout, but we're going to kind of go over this message. It's a little blurry, but we're going to read through it and just kind of looking at what I just kind of went over. If there's anything in this message that might look suspect. So it says, "Dear customer, unfortunately, we unable to deliver you package this morning. We will be making 2 more attempts in the next 48 hours. If we are unable to deliver your package, we will return to sender. Please verify that your delivery address is correct by clicking on the link below or updating the attached document." Anything in this email that looks a little strange. Now, just to point out as well, this email supposedly came from FedEx, Federal Express, package delivery companies. Anything in there look a little strange?
The email address up at the top.
Email. That's, yeah, David37428@gmail. Doesn't sound like FedEx. And to your point earlier, now Federal Express has a policy. If any of their package handlers communicate with a customer using their personal email address, immediately terminated. Immediately fired. A lot of these companies have, especially package delivery, have very strict policies, knowing that these are the most common types of phishing emails that are in the wild, that are being sent. Anything else look kind of weird? If you look at the tracking information. So the item in blue, that's called a hyperlink. You can make a hyperlink in Microsoft Word, in Microsoft Excel, and when you do, you can make it point to wherever you want. Okay, so even though that link says www.fedex.com/tracking and a tracking number, if you take your mouse and hover over that link, it points up a site that doesn't look too safe.
Yeah, why would you name yourself Evil Hacker?
Why would you name yourself Evil Hacker? Right? Is it really safe to click? I wouldn't click it. So there's several, and typically it's not just going to be one condition. It's going to be multiple conditions that are met in these types of emails. Spelling is wrong, generic greeting, the email doesn't look correct, a link pointing at something that looks strange. There's going to be a number of variables that invalidate this message. Okay? So we're going to look at a couple other ones here. This is one that actually came to me a couple years ago. Fatal inbox synchronization error. This is to my work email address, which used to have a super long suffix. Anything in there looks kind of strange. It was an inbox error message. Now I'll give you a little, so we're using Microsoft Outlook at my place of business as well. So if this is a fatal inbox synchronization error, you would assume this came from Microsoft Outlook or Microsoft.
Yeah,
came from
Lewis.
Lewis Cap Advisors. others. I don't know. That sounds weird. And also, if I hover over update inbox, if I hover over that hyperlink, it's pointing to somewhere really cryptic. It's pointing to this POS 44. It might be kind of hard to see in the back there. Really long, cryptic link, right? Reason for this is cyber criminals, they use virtual machines in the cloud. They can spin up these machines every minute, and they can stage them to send out email messages to different URLs, but they're going to be really weird domains. They're not going to be anything that looks like Microsoft or something that looks like a Microsoft Outlook as well. So there could be things in there, again, that look kind of amiss that, again, could throw it off. Now, what could also happen, yeah, go ahead.
Well, how do they get all these emails anyway?
So they could compromise someone else's system. So in this particular case, I probably should, these people are no longer in business, but this was actually a valid email that was compromised at another agency. That they compromised their email, and they were able to get in their contact list and use their email addresses to send out their phishing message. Or they could do generic searches. All of our emails are, a lot of our, if you're an instructor at Triton, I believe your email is public domain knowledge. So you could do what's called a scrub of a website. I could probably scrub Triton's website and get a few thousand email addresses that are public knowledge, right? So it's like the phone book, right? It's the same as having your address in a phone book, right? It's a lot of this is public domain knowledge that they can get.
That is my next question. And we are talking about emails. We get a lot of phishing phone calls, right? A lot of them. Actually, one thing I found out is that if you return the same number, if you call them back, there's no answer. It goes to Verizon or something like that. There's a phishing phone. I mean, that I think is a little bit more dangerous, not dangerous, I would call it dangerous, but more puzzling than an email.
Absolutely. And you know, I can only, again, I want to stick to phishing to this, but you're right, that is another, it's called phishing, voice phishing. Right. And the best thing to do is if it doesn't look like a number, it looks legitimate, just hang up or don't answer. I mean, to be quite honest, there's probably 10 or 15 people that I'll pick up my phone for, and the rest of it, I let it go to voicemail. It's just kind of the world we're living. I think we went through this when we did outreach, calling students. How many students think answered their phone? Nobody. But emailing them, they'll look at an email, right? So here's another example. This is actually purportedly came from the help desk at Triton College, okay? So this may be one that was sent, and it says, notice from Triton College Help Desk, in an effort to increase level security for our email accounts user, we are implementing a new email password policy for your protection. Anything that look weird about that?
If you have not update your.
If you have not update, notice from the help desk. Now again, I'm not saying that no organizations use generic greetings. I actually have an example from Triton that uses a generic greeting. But again, that's one of several factors that weigh in here. The other one is the email address. Does that look like a Triton.edu email? No. nmueller@ktis.net. Not to say that that could be a legitimate email, but chances are that person's email account was compromised, and their account there is being used as a springboard by that threat actor to send these emails. So just some things that, so to update at live.com, so may have went to a mail server or listserv. Again, asking you to click on a link if you have not update, right? Support grammar. A lot of these are going to be very subtle, right? Very subtle, like a spelling error. And what I say is, and people say, well, Pat, people have spelling errors. I'm like, yes, but when you have Amazon that's sending you an email, chances are there's not going to be a spelling error in it because that email was probably a boilerplate that was reviewed by 20 people before they sent it out to anybody. So the chance of it would be less. Not saying it couldn't happen, but it's a lot less than someone just sending these out purportedly being from Amazon, right? So another one, just again, a series of different ones here. Office 365 account update. Hi, page one. I think that's the name of Triton's newsletter, or used to be.
No.
No, something else, or I thought it looked like it was that page1@troy.edu. I think it was, because I think that was a valid email one time. But again, if it's from Triton support team, check out the email address. gdgterk3@cnhald.com. Doesn't look too promising. Here, sense of urgency, please, you won't be able to send or receive messages. Confirm your update within 12 hours to avoid being deactivated. Again, this is a legit message that was received, and again, it hits a lot of those same markers. President Moore.
I remember this one.
This is a reboot, but I showed us one. Anything strange? So what if President Moore were to email you and say, are you available? Uh-oh.
It's not
So-
from Gmail.
Say again?
It would not be from Gmail.
Thank you.
It's from President.
It would not be from Gmail. Lowercase president, I mean, maybe that's how she has it in her personal email, but why, again, that doesn't hit the mark. And this is a reminder, President Moore's valid email addresses are Mary Rita Moore at Triton.edu or president@Triton.edu. I think President Moore would know better than to send it from a Gmail account to someone asking if they're available. Again, that's just casting out that line, right? But in this case, they're casting out a wide net because this email could go to everyone in Triton's contact list. Again, that information would be public. So just things to be
So
mindful
if
of.
you made the mistake of clicking on that, what would happen then?
So it all depends. It depends on what it was crafted to do. If it was, typically what they'll do is they'll redirect you to a site to have you authenticate. So they may ask you, please log into your email again. And in that case, if you put in your email username and password and click OK, it could say thank you for re-authenticating. It could say something very benign, but chances are now they have your credentials. If that happens, first thing to do is change your password. Okay, if there's any suspicion at all that you may have clicked something that brought you to a site that was redirected where you took action, you know what, it happens. I mean, a lot of people, millions of people make this mistake. First thing to do is whatever account you use, change your password. And I go into a couple safeguards there. But yeah, Mary Rita Moore at Triton.edu or President Moore, not at gmail.com. So this is an example. This is kind of small glaze over this one. This was actually a student's email that was compromised, and it was re-emailing people in their contact list about a job opportunity. Again, 34% of what we're seeing in the wild online come from LinkedIn about potential job opportunities, about connecting with people in your professional network. So they're using this to prey on you to get information or notify you. So when creating or replying to emails, be careful of that reply all button. This is at my regular job. We have people when they're about ready to retire, they we put a limit of 300 recipients. We should bounce it back. But they'll send an email. It's been a pleasure working with you. I wish everyone the best of luck. Sometimes they'll include their cell phone number. And and it's a bunch. And then people say good luck to you, and they do a reply all. So it replies to everyone that person said good luck on that person. So again, be mindful when you do reply all. Certain times you do. If you're working with a group on a project or with your students and you want to notify them all that something's coming up or a date or an assignment change, reply all. But be mindful when you do. Autocomplete. This is one of my favorites. So if you're typing in an email address, make sure to review it before sending it. Sometimes it'll autocomplete. Okay. At my job, I get a lot of email from Pete Kane. No relation, but Peter, I come up first in the email list, he's second. But I get a lot of Pete's and I forward it to him. He gets some of mine, he forwards them to me. One of the famous ones that I use is by her, there's a woman in our agency, her name is Viruta Santa. Great lady, been with us a long time. She was working with our ERP team, and she was reviewing some information, and the SAP person who was a consultant working with us typed in, if you have any questions regarding this information, to an email. So this SAP consultant said Viruta Santa was working on this project, and please contact Viruta Santa. What auto-corrected it to Viruta Snot, and it went out to everyone, 2,000 people. So So yeah, just be careful when Microsoft tries to be your friend in autocomplete. Verify that it is what you typed in. Okay, hover your mouse. So you want to hover over stuff to make sure that that email address that's in the line is actually whose it is, right? So if it says President Moore, you want to maybe hover over that address and make sure, is it Mary Rita Moore at Triton.edu or President at Triton.edu? But if it says President Moore at Gmail,
So you just hover over it,
yeah, you hover over it.
How do you do it on your phone?
That's a great question. How do you do it on your phone?
Because you can't hover.
You can't hover on your phone. But what you can do is you can press and hold. So on your phone, and I'm sorry, it's going to be super small, but I'll walk around. So I have a hyperlink called click here to register. And if I press and hold, it's going to pop up the URL location to that hyperlink. So let me show you that. So here's a hyperlink in my message. If I press and hold, it's going to show you the location of that, where that link is going to. And then you can do a little additional research to verify if it's legitimate or not. So again, I just do a press and hold, and then it'll pop up, and it'll say about open a browser, copy URL, share a link. It gives you a bunch of different options.
It's the same thing when you click on the email address it's coming from.
Yes, you can do that as well. So anything, any electronic item on your screen that is like hyperlinked, and that would be an email, you press and hold, and it'll show you the location of where that URL, the web address is pointing to. Okay, so good question. The press and hold on your smartphone. On any touch tablet device, you can press and hold with a touch screen, and it'll show you that location. Again, that just helps you make a determination if where it's directing to looks legitimate.
Do you press and hold right on the address?
Right on the hyperlink. So right on the address. So so this is like inside an email I received. This is actually from InfraGard, which is an infrastructure. So inside this email I received, I go to the link, I press and hold, and it opens up that address.
Okay.
So it doesn't go there. It kind of shows you where it's going to go, and it gives you option: open in browser, copy link, or share link. So very good question.
And what happens if you accidentally like double tap?
If you accidentally double tap, it will visit that site, but typically, really it depends on what that link was designed to do. It really depends on that action. So sometimes it's going to go to a website that will ask you to log in with your credentials. Sometimes it will actually go in and it may try to install an executable on your computer remotely. In that case, that's why, again, this is kind of off topic. It's always good to have your system up to date with all the software updates, whether it's Windows Update, Mac OS, and running an antivirus software program. That would be your first line of defense against catching some of this stuff. Also, be on the lookout for unrealistic threats. So threatening language, payment overdue, your account has been compromised. Again, they try to threaten you or invoke you into clicking on something. If it's too good to be true, you won the lottery, you're due a large family inheritance. I think it was like the Nigerian prince trying to come over. Yeah, it's too good to be true. It's like the old saying goes: if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? From a government agency, I actually have an example of this. In almost every case, government agencies will not use email to communicate any type of consequence. IRS is not going to send you an email, okay? If you sign up for alerts with the IRS, you may get that, but you need to take that initial action. And you'd assumably be cognizant of doing that. They're never going to reach out and try to get you to sign up for anything. And here's an example to kind of addresses that through smishing, text message. This is a very famous one that came out back in May of this year. A lot of people got this text message from the Secretary of State in Illinois. DMV contact information seems to be missing or incorrect. Please update now. bit.ly, LDFD3M, no, doesn't sound like a Secretary of State, right? And actually, they released a press release on this, indicating that we would never notify you via text message unless you signed up for some sort of service. But actually, one of my friends worked with Secretary of State. They were doing this, and they had to scrap the whole thing because they knew this happened first, and now no one would be trustworthy. They would assume to click on something.
But can't they change that hyperlink to say something else?
They can. They can. So I think they're going to give it a little time. But for now, everything is done through email, electronic mail, or in person, right? So I think they may send you plate renewals, but again, if they already have your information, it's going to say, you know, your name, your plate number on there, okay? So there's going to be some things that validate that. So protection mechanisms. So I work in IT, I've worked in IT for 25 years. We got all kinds of fun toys, flashing gizmos and doodads with lights and screens and internet content filters, antivirus, password protection, application security, firewalls. But Triton College does have some proactive steps they take. As I mentioned earlier, if you get an email to your Triton inbox, your Triton email account, that's from outside, it's going to have that flag at the top, that little line saying, this email did not originate from the Triton College email system. If the source looks suspicious, do not open attachments, click on links, or provide your credentials. Just kind of giving you a reminder. This may be legit. And I'm not saying, you know, it could be something that you may want to see, or this came from College Central Network, where students get jobs, right? So I want to check them out, see what jobs are available for students. But again, as a reminder, and most recently, so that's the little flag there. Most recently, Mike Garrity gave me okay to use this. Triton has implemented a new system called Barracuda Sentinel. And then what it does, or Barracuda Sentry, it's basically another line of defense. So if an email looks suspicious, it's going to automatically capture it, but it's going to notify you that it was captured by their system. And what it's going to do is it's going to say where the email came from, and it's going to say where the email was addressed to, and it'll give you an option in the email to say report this as not phishing. If you click that link, it'll release that message to your inbox. But if it is something that's malicious, you don't take any action. It's just letting you know that a message came to your inbox that looks suspicious. Could have been from a suspicious domain. It could have been from a suspicious user account that was compromised. Their system's always being updated on the back end. But it's going to send you that information, and then you're going to be able to say if this is legitimate or just disregard it. Okay? So another thing that might do at my company is kind of fun is we do phishing assessments. So we actually test our users we'll craft a message that looks legitimate. But we'll put some flags in there to make it illegitimate. It says like Chromebook winner. You always try to lure someone in with free stuff, right? Get your free Chromebook. But I put in a link that like dunkellendonuts.com. It has some things in here that look a little amiss. At our agency, we don't use Chromebooks. But I mean, regardless, some agencies do. But that would be a giveaway. So what happens is if a user clicks on any link in that message, they get a page that looks like this. Oops, you clicked on a simulated phishing email. Basically it tells them, hey, what you did is okay, but it shows that message and it shows red flags in there, what makes the message seem somewhat fishy.
What does it say under the red?
It says prompts you to complete requests to gain something of value. So I know it's kind of small to see on the screen here, but it just has little red flags, so like the domain Google Cloud at dunkindonuts.com. That would be them. So hovering over this button brings you to another weird URL, not to Chromebook. And what we do on the back is we capture this data, and we use it to train our users. Now in this particular case, we sent out 1,835 messages. 50 people clicked on it. Not too bad. My bosses disagree with me. They think we should have 0, but you're gonna have some people. But based on industry trends, again, our agency, we're 2.7%. or the industry is 24.4% prone to phishing. So I like to tout that because we do a lot of cybersecurity training in my day job too. So people are kind of cognizant about this information that happening here. So do we have time for a video, or do you want me to stop here for Q&A? We have like 5 minutes left. I have a quick video. It's like a 3-minute review of what we talked about. Okay. All right, video. I usually don't do videos in my class, but no, I don't really see it. Let's see. Actually, I already have it queued up. Let me share the screen for our remote recording people too, so I'll stop this.
Share audio.
Oh, that's right, shoot, I always do that.
I've done that so many
And it's
times.
like double echo, right?
No, they don't get any.
Well, they don't get it all, that's right. Let me try again, sorry, let me go here. Share audio.
You shouldn't have to click that button.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. How's our volume? What are we on? Yep, we're on. Cool. Okay. So,
Email or messaging services to trick you into taking an action, such as opening an infected email attachment or clicking on a malicious link. The name comes from a similarity to the sport of phishing. Cyber attackers don't know who will fall victim. They simply know the more phishing emails they send, the more fish they will catch. In a phishing attack, cyber attackers put out bait for you in the form of an electronic message. Like a good lure, it's crafted to look authentic, often appearing to come from a trusted source or playing on your emotions, such as a sense of urgency or curiosity. The attackers often don't know much about you personally, so they choose a familiar bait they think people will go for, such as a message from a popular online service or brand of credit card. How can you avoid getting caught? Don't be in a hurry to jump on every link, text, and attachment. Be skeptical of messages that are unexpected or seem odd. Here are some common clues to look for. An extreme sense of urgency. A phishing message often wants you to act right away, so you don't have time to figure out something's wrong. Be especially alert to any message pressuring you to bypass or ignore our policies and procedures. Requesting sensitive information. Be alert anytime you're asked for information, such as account numbers or passwords, general greetings or language. Be cautious of messages that say, "Dear customer," or don't address you by name. Emotion. A message creating a strong sense of security or an opportunity that is too good to be true. No, you did not win the British lottery. Tone. The message appears to be coming from a friend or coworker, but the wording or tone of the message does not sound like them. Unreliable sources. Double check the from or reply to email addresses. The email appears to come from a legitimate company or a coworker, but the from or reply to address is a personal email account like @gmail.com or @yahoo.com. This means that when you reply to the email, you're actually replying to an email account cyber attacker controls. Hovering. Hover your mouse over a link before you click it, so you can see the true destination. On many mobile devices, pressing and holding the link will show you the destination as well. Even better, bookmark in your browser any sites you commonly visit. Then, instead of clicking on links in your email, go to these sites using trusted links you already bookmarked. Sometimes we even give sensitive information away by accident. One of the biggest culprits is the reply all button on your email, or the group text function on your smartphone. Always be sure you know exactly who your responses are going to. In addition, be careful when you're typing in email addresses. Make sure that you spell them correctly and watch out for the autocomplete function, which can end up filling in an email address you didn't originally intend. Always double check the to section in your email before sending. Once you send a message, it's no longer in your control. Ultimately, common sense is one of your greatest defenses. Take your time and double-check a sensitive email before being sent. And if you think a message might be a phishing attack, report it to the information security team.
One of the great challenges in this world.
Okay, so with that, I'll share out the screen. Just to kind of a recap summary of what we went over during the presentation. So at this point, I'll take any other questions you may have.
So, like, 2-3 weeks ago, when one of those fast food restaurants was opening.
Raising Cane's, I think.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
doing all, and I sent them, I put them as phishing and sent them to
The help desk?
I sent
Or
them
Mike
to
Garrity?
Garrity.
Yeah, that was legitimate.
That was
They-
legitimate?
Yeah, they were giving away free meal.
Yeah,
for-
but you had to click on a link, and I'm like,
You had to click on a link, but see, you had to validate that yourself. And again, that's where you take your time. So you validate the
But
URL.
did they just go through the public domain and get all the emails?
They probably reached out to someone at Triton College and set up that partnership. And typically when that occurs, sometimes they will send out a pre-message letting you know. But it all depends on what variable was set, right? So sometimes they may just have that as an FYI. They may have contacted someone in marketing and said, hey, we're doing a promotional. Can we send this to all your people through email? Is it okay? Because it actually went through Eventbrite and actually scheduled an event to that particular location. And yeah, I signed up for it, but I didn't go there and get it. But that was legitimate.
But see, then that confuses everybody, right?
Yeah. Well, because again, to your point, some are legitimate, but we need to do our due diligence. So if I hover over that link, it should resolve to their website. If you're curious, you could do an internet search, or you did the right thing. You contacted, Mike Garrity. You probably said, yeah, this is okay. It's for a free box lunch, right? So, but again, because companies are doing this constantly, because it's a marketing tool, right? And again, your email is public. So even if they didn't go to the marketing department, they may have just captured them all through our website,
Right.
knowing we're in our backyard. Yep, question?
So what's a good, is it McAfee, which ones are like the better ones, or which ones are like more comprehensive to cover things, would you say?
So I can't speak for any particular antivirus software. However, I can say that in addition to antivirus on your computer, your personal computer, I know Triton has antivirus installed on their computers that are up to date. We recommend that whatever antivirus you use, make sure it does have a current account and is up to date. Some of those you do have to pay for.
Right.
A Windows 10, I can only speak Windows 10 has Microsoft Defender out of the box, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good antivirus utility that comes with Windows 10. But you want to make sure it's up to date. You got to make sure your system has up to date security updates, software updates to make sure it's protected. And also, Triton's message does have content filtering, but it can't do everything. That's why we have these, discussions.
Did Triton have an incident a couple of years ago?
We did. Triton had an incident where someone's credentials were compromised, and they had access to our network, and they had to turn off access for everyone to investigate it. Yeah.
So how was that finally resolved?
I don't know the details, so I really can't speak about it, but I do know they wouldn't have enabled the network unless it was the known source or it was
Was there a
secure.
payout?
Say again?
You think there was a payout?
No clue. No clue. Don't
It's
know,
never
sorry.
talked about much.
It isn't, but companies do pay. I mean, they will pay ransom. Because a lot of times, especially finance companies, credit card companies, banks, they just want a validation they can get back in business, they'll pay. They'll say, you got us, go ahead, we'll pay. And it's sad because you're enabling further ransomware attacks.
So is much being done to combat these threats?
Again, there is, the CIA, the Cybersecurity Information Security Agency, CISA. They're very active, but again, if you look at President Biden did a call last month saying we need to upgrade and up our ante for cybersecurity technicians, and this really starts at the school, so we can try to get that education to get involved with, protecting, these systems. Any other questions? I think it's time, guys. Thank you very much. I'll stop the recording. If you have any questions, please feel like just follow up group.
Do you have any more of these?
I do have a few. So let me.
So aren't students a big